Terroir. I'm Simon Jacob, your host for this episode from Jerusalem. Before we get started, I ask that wherever you are, please take a moment and pray for the safety of our soldiers and the safe return of all of our hostages. After all the recent discussions about bubbly wines, I decided it's time to produce an episode dedicated to its origins. If you are driving in your car, please focus on the road ahead. If you're relaxing at home, please open a bottle of your favorite bubbly wine, sit back, and enjoy the following Geeking Out on Champagne episode. Hello, and welcome to the Kosher Terroir. I'm Simon Jacob, and I am so excited to have you join me today as we dive into the sparkling and fascinating world of champagne. Whether you're a seasoned wine enthusiast or just someone curious about how this magical drink is made, I promise this episode will be an enlightening journey. Dom Pérignon is often credited with inventing champagne, but the truth is a bit more nuanced. Dom Pierre Pérignon was a Benedictine monk who lived in the late 17th and early 18th centuries. While he didn't invent sparkling wine, his work in improving wine production at the Abbey of Hautevillers laid the foundation for modern champagne. Dom Pérignon focused on perfecting blending techniques. He discovered that combining different grape varieties from various vineyards could create a harmonious and balanced wine. He also experimented with pressing methods to produce clear, high-quality juice and developed stronger glass bottles to withstand the pressure of fermentation. The famous story of Dom Pérignon exclaiming, "Come quickly, I am tasting the stars," upon tasting sparkling wine for the first time is likely apocryphal. Nonetheless, his contributions to winemaking were profound, and his name is now synonymous with one of the most prestigious champagne brands in the world. Winston Churchill's love for Pol Roger champagne was legendary. It began during World War II, when Churchill met Odette Pol Roger, the co-owner of the Champagne House, at an official dinner in 1944. Churchill fell in love with Pol Roger's vintage champagne and reportedly drank over 40,000 bottles of it during his lifetime. In honor of this relationship, Pol Roger created a special cuvée Sir Winston Churchill, which they introduced in 1984. The wine was crafted to Churchill's tastes, robust, mature, and full-bodied. Even today, Pol Roger continues to celebrate its connection to the iconic British leader. Churchill once famously remarked, "Remember, gentlemen, it's not just France we are fighting for. It's champagne." This quip perfectly encapsulates his passion for the sparkling wine and its cultural significance. Each of these stories showcases the creativity, resilience, and history embedded in champagne production. They highlight why champagne is not just a beverage, but also a symbol of heritage and celebration. Today, we're going to talk about the methods of creating champagne. We'll explore everything from the traditional techniques perfected in the Champagne region of France to innovative modern methods used around the world. So grab a glass of your favorite bubbly and let's get started. Let's begin with the most celebrated and prestigious method, the traditional method, or Méthode Champenoise. This is the method used to produce authentic champagne in France. It's a meticulous and time-honored process that creates the complexity and elegance champagne is known for. Let me break it down for you step by step. First, we start with the base wine production. This is a still wine made from specific grape varieties like Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, and Pinot Meunier. These grapes are pressed gently to extract the juice, and then fermentation occurs to create a dry wine. The selection of these grape varieties is crucial. Chardonnay brings brightness and acidity. Pinot Noir adds body and structure, and Pinot Meunier contributes fruitiness and roundness. Each grape plays a role, and winemakers often blend them to achieve a balanced profile. Next comes the tirage. Sugar and yeast are added to the base wine, and this mixture is bottled and sealed with a temporary cap. This is where the magic begins, because the sugar and yeast work together to create carbon dioxide, which forms those beautiful bubbles. Did you know that the exact amount of sugar added at this stage is meticulously calculated? Too little, and the bubbles won't form properly. Too much, and the bottle could explode from the pressure. The wine then undergoes a second fermentation inside the bottle. This process can take several weeks, and during this time, the bottles are stored horizontally. Winemakers carefully monitor the temperature, ensuring it's just right to allow the yeast to work its magic without overheating or slowing down. But the process doesn't stop there. The wine is aged on its lees, which are the dead yeast cells left over from fermentation. This aging period, which can last anywhere from 12 to 36 months or even longer, gives champagne its rich, toasty, and complex flavors. This stage is critical for developing the signature notes of brioche, toasted nuts, and delicate creaminess that high-quality champagne is known for. The next step is riddling. One of the most iconic figures in champagne history is Barbe Nicole Ponsardin, better known as Madame Clicquot, the visionary behind Veuve Clicquot. In the early 19th century, Madame Clicquot revolutionized champagne production with the invention of riddling. At the time, champagne often had cloudy sediment due to the dead yeast left from secondary fermentation. This cloudiness was seen as a flaw. Madame Clicquot devised a method to clarify champagne by gradually tilting and rotating the bottles upside down, allowing sediment to collect in the neck. Her staff used riddling racks, a wooden board with angled holes, to support the bottles during this process. Madame Clicquot's ingenuity not only solved the clarity issue, but also elevated the quality and reputation of champagne worldwide. Her contributions earned her the title La Grande Dame de Champagne, and her legacy continues to inspire winemakers today. Then comes disgorgement, where the neck of the bottle is frozen and the sediment plug is ejected. Finally, a small amount of sugar and wine, known as the dosage, is added to balance the flavor. This dosage determines the sweetness level, from brut nature with no added sugar to demi-sec, which is quite sweet. After corking and labeling, the champagne is ready to be enjoyed. This method is all about finesse and complexity. It's why authentic champagne is so highly regarded and cherished worldwide. Now, let's move on to the Charmat method, also known as the tank method. This is a much faster and more cost-effective way to produce sparkling wines, commonly used for Prosecco and other accessible options. In this method, fermentation happens in large pressurized stainless steel tanks instead of individual bottles. The process begins much like the traditional method with base wine production. Winemakers select grapes that thrive in this method, such as Glera for Prosecco. Once the base wine is ready, sugar and yeast are added to the tank, and the sealed environment traps the carbon dioxide produced during fermentation. The tanks used in the Charmat method are equipped with advanced temperature controls to ensure consistency. Fermentation typically takes just a few weeks, after which the wine is filtered to remove any remaining yeast. It is then bottled under pressure to preserve the bubbles. This method produces wines that are fresh, fruity, and light, perfect for casual sipping and celebrations. Unlike the traditional method, Wines made with the Charmat method are meant to be consumed young, allowing their vibrant fruitiness to shine. Think of those crisp apple, pear, and floral notes you often find in Prosecco. Next up is the transfer method, which is like a hybrid between the traditional and Charmat methods. It retains some of the complexity of the traditional method, but saves time and costs. Here's how it works. The base wine is bottled with sugar and yeast, just like in the traditional method. However, instead of riddling and disgorging each bottle individually, the bottles are emptied into a pressurized tank after aging. The wine is filtered, and dosage is added in the tank before it is rebottled. This method is often used for sparkling wines that aim to offer a balance between complexity and affordability. It's efficient and ensures a consistent product, making it a popular choice for mid-tier sparkling wines. Now let's talk about the oldest method of all, the ancestral method, also known as Méthode Ancestrale. This technique dates back centuries and produces wines with a rustic charm. The key here is that the wine is bottled before primary fermentation is complete. This means fermentation finishes in the bottle, creating natural carbonation. There's no riddling or disgorgement, and the wine often contains sediment, giving it a cloudy appearance. These wines, often referred to as pétillant naturel or pet nat, are lower in pressure and have a natural earthy character. Pet nat wines are beloved by fans of natural winemaking. They're unpredictable and unique, with flavors that can range from tart and tangy to sweet and fruity. This method is all about embracing imperfection and celebrating individuality. Finally, we have the simplest method, the carbonation method. This involves injecting carbon dioxide directly into still wine, much like how soda is made. There's no fermentation involved in this process. It's quick, inexpensive, and produces sparkling wine with straightforward flavors. While it lacks the complexity of other methods, it's perfect for creating affordable and fun bubbly wines. Here are some additional interesting facts and stories about Champagne. In the mid-19th century, Louis Pommery of Maison-Pommery made a bold move that would forever change Champagne. At the time, Champagne was traditionally quite sweet, as it was often sweetened with sugar to suit the tastes of European and Russian elites. However, Pommery recognized a growing demand for a drier style of wine in the English market. In 1874, under her leadership, Pommery released the world's first brut champagne, containing significantly less sugar. It was revolutionary for its time and immediately captured the attention of wine enthusiasts across Europe. Today, brut is the most popular style of champagne, and we owe its creation to Louis Pommery's keen understanding of market trends and consumer preferences. In the early 20th century, Champagne faced a crisis that shook the industry. During this period, many producers in the Champagne region began using grapes from outside the region, some as far away as the south of France. This practice angered local grape growers, who felt their livelihoods were being threatened. In 1910, nature added fuel to the fire. A severe frost devastated Champagne vineyards, leaving growers unable to harvest sufficient grapes. When they discovered that Champagne houses were importing grapes from other regions to meet demand, tensions boiled over. In 1911, angry growers organized protests, destroyed warehouses, and even dumped barrels of wine into the streets. The French government intervened, and new regulations were established to protect the Champagne appellation. Only grapes grown within the designated Champagne region could be used in its production. This event cemented the importance of terroir and authenticity in Champagne. reinforcing its reputation as a product of unparalleled quality. The 1928 vintage is one of the most legendary in champagne history, particularly for the House of Krug. That year, ideal weather conditions resulted in grapes of exceptional quality. The wines produced were stunningly complex and structured, capable of aging for decades. What makes this story special is that the 1928 Krug champagne became one of the most sought-after bottles in history. The last known bottle was reportedly served at a private dinner in the 1990s, more than 60 years after it was bottled. This extraordinary longevity highlights champagne's ability to age beautifully under the right conditions, making it not only a celebratory drink, but also a collector's treasure. During World War II, the Champagne region was occupied by German forces. Many champagne houses faced the risk of having their cellars looted by the Nazis. To protect their precious stock, winemakers employed clever tactics to hide bottles. For example, the House of Moët and Chandon walled off sections of its extensive underground cellars, concealing some of its best vintages. Similarly, Pol Roger hid their most valuable bottles deep within their cellars. These hidden treasures often remained undiscovered until after the war, preserving a part of champagne history that could have been lost forever. The cellars themselves became a symbol of resilience. During the war, they served as shelters for locals during bombings. Families lived in these subterranean spaces, carving out a life among the barrels and bottles, which gave them both physical protection and hope for the future. The champagne house Bollinger has a long-standing association with James Bond, making it the secret agent's preferred bubbly. This partnership began in 1973, when Bollinger appeared in the Bond film Live and Let Die. The connection was further solidified in Moonraker, where Bond was served Bollinger aboard Drax's space station. The story goes that Albert R. Broccoli, the producer of the Bond films, was a close friend of the Bollinger family. He admired the quality and sophistication of their champagne, seeing it as a perfect match for Bond's character. Since then, Bollinger has become an integral part of the Bond franchise, appearing in almost every film. To celebrate this unique relationship, Bollinger has released several limited edition James Bond-themed champagnes, including a stunning 2011 vintage to mark the release of No Time to Die. The Bond-Bollinger connection is a testament to how champagne can elevate a brand's cultural legacy. The Titanic's fateful voyage in 1912 wasn't just a tragedy. It was also a symbol of opulence, and champagne played a prominent role on board. Passengers in first class were treated to some of the finest champagnes of the era, including Heidsieck and Company's Monopole. In 1997, divers discovered a cache of champagne bottles from the Titanic wreckage. Amazingly, the bottles were intact, and when one was opened, it was still drinkable. The frigid temperatures at the bottom of the Atlantic had preserved the wine remarkably well. This discovery was a bittersweet reminder of the Titanic's grandeur and the enduring allure of champagne. Ceylon is one of the most exclusive champagne houses in the world, producing only one cuvée, a Blanc de Blanc made from 100% Chardonnay. The story begins with Eugène-Aimé Salon, a visionary who believed in the purity and elegance of Chardonnay from the Côte des Blancs. In the early 20th century, Salon created this champagne purely for his own enjoyment and for sharing with close friends. It wasn't until after his death in the 1920s that the wine became commercially available. Salon produces its champagne only in exceptional vintages, and even then, in extremely limited quantities. This exclusivity, combined with its remarkable quality, has made Ceylon a prized gem among collectors and connoisseurs. These stories reflect Champagne's rich history. Each of them showcases the creativity, resilience, and history embedded in Champagne production. They highlight why Champagne is not just a beverage, but also a symbol of heritage and celebration. So, there you have it, Champagne, its stories, legends, and the 5 fascinating methods of creating champagne and sparkling wines. From the labor-intensive traditional method to the easygoing carbonation method, each technique has its own charm and purpose. We are blessed to have many new and old kosher champagnes and bubbly wines available on the market these days for our enjoyment. They actually fall under all of the methods mentioned in this podcast. They are produced in France, Israel, the United States, Italy, and Spain. The Jardin Blanc de Blanc is a distinguished sparkling wine produced by the Golan Heights Winery in Israel. Crafted exclusively from Chardonnay grapes cultivated in the northern Golan Heights, Israel's coolest viticultural area, this wine exemplifies finesse and complexity. Adhering to the traditional method, the process includes whole cluster pressing and secondary fermentation in the bottle. Notably, the wine undergoes extended aging on tirage yeast, with disgorging commencing after 6 years, contributing to its nuanced flavor profile. Tasting notes reveal delightful fruit aromas of lemon, pear, and green apple, complemented by hints of floral and mineral undertones, all set against a subtle backdrop of toasted baguette. The wine's delicate yet complex character is enhanced by fine bubbles and crisp acidity, making it a festive and elegant choice for various occasions. Baron Herzog Brut Champagne. The use of the term champagne by producers outside France has been a subject of international trade discussions. In many cases, agreements have been established to reserve the term exclusively for wines from the Champagne region. However, some producers in the United States continue to use the term due to historical labeling practices and specific legal allowances. The Baron Herzog California Champagne is a sparkling wine that presents a bright yellow hue. On the nose, it offers inviting aromas of ripe quince and pears. The palate reveals a light to medium body, with a gentle mousse, delivering flavors of quince, kiwi, and pears. The wine exhibits medium-low acidity and concludes with a moderate finish. This sparkling wine is slightly off-dry, making it a versatile choice for various occasions. Its balanced profile allows it to pair well with a range of dishes, from appetizers to light desserts. The subtle sweetness and fruit-forward character make it an approachable option for both casual and formal settings. Champagne Jeeper offers a selection of kosher champagnes, including their Brut Grand Rosé. This champagne presents a light, bright pink color with delicate bubbles. The nose is fruity and floral, featuring aromas of peony and rose. On the palate, it is fine and fruity, with supple freshness and notes of red fruits, particularly black cherry. The finish is subtly long and elegantly assertive. The blend consists of 88% Chardonnay and 12% Pinot Noir, with a low sugar level, classifying it as Brut. Champagne Jeeper is known for its commitment to quality and the unique Jeeper taste developed through a constant quest for excellence. Drapier Brut Champagne Carte d'Or offers a harmonious blend of Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, and Pinot Meunier grapes. It presents a rich bouquet with notes of white peach, quince, and a subtle spice. The palate is fresh and elegant, leading to a long, complex finish. Laurent Perrier Cuvée Rosé Brut is renowned for its salmon pink color. This rosé champagne is crafted from 100% Pinot Noir grapes. It boasts aromas of fresh strawberries, red currants, raspberries, and black cherries. The palate is crisp and full-bodied, with a lingering, refreshing finish. Baron's de Rothschild Brut is an elegant champagne that combines Chardonnay and Pinot Noir grapes, offering fine bubbles and a creamy texture. Flavors of pear, almond, and fresh citrus are complemented by a delicate minerality. Tishbe Brut, produced in Israel using the traditional Méthode Champenoise, is gentle and elegant, with aromas and flavors of peach and sunflowers. It offers a balanced acidity and a refreshing finish. Freixenet Excelencia Kosher Cava is a classic Spanish cava that is light and refreshing, featuring apple, pear, and citrus notes. Its crisp acidity and fine bubbles make it an excellent aperitif or accompaniment to light dishes. LV Wines, a renowned producer of premium kosher wines, offers a variety of sparkling wines. Their Cava Brut, a classic Spanish sparkling wine made in the traditional method from a blend of Macabeo, Parellada, and Xarel-Lo grapes. Bartonura Prosecco Brut is a semi-dry Italian sparkling wine with 11.5% alcohol content, Mevushal. Additionally, Borgo Reale Prosecco Brut Champagne is a kosher sparkling wine produced in the Diano d'Alba region of Italy. It is slightly fruity and dry, making it perfect to accompany appetizers and seafood. It is best served chilled. So, in the future, while selecting one of the refreshing wines, take notice of the label and its method of production. And the next time you sip on a glass, enjoying the fine bubbles, take a moment to think about the craftsmanship behind it, and that you're tasting the stars. Thank you so much for joining me today on the Kosher Terroir. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review if you enjoyed this episode. Until next time, cheers and happy sipping. This is Simon Jacob again, your host of today's episode of the Kosher Terroir. I have a personal request. No matter where you are or where you live, please take a moment to pray for our soldiers' safety and the safe and rapid return of our hostages. Please subscribe via your podcast provider to be informed of our new episodes as they are released. If you're new to the Kosher Terroir, please check out our many past episodes.